Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hello, everyone, and welcome to War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast. Excuse me. Coming to you as always from deep within the Outer Rim, far beyond the watchful eyes of the Galactic Empire. Oh, I wish I knew how to edit these things. I'd edit that whole thing out, but oh well. It makes for great radio or podcasting. Anyway, my name is John Mark Tolley, and joining me as always is my co-host Garrett K. Jones. And I just realized I still have Data and Lily up there as my name from my other show. Even though Lily is not here, this is not Star Wars Through the Eyes of a Child. This is War of the Stars. We're off to a great start, aren't we? Yes.
Oh, yeah. Don't feel too bad. I mean, at least you don't look like the guy who tried to rough up Luke in the Mos Eisley Cantina right now. My eye is just doing this weird thing from an allergic reaction, and it's going nuts. Thankfully, it's actually on the mend, but yeah.
That's good. Yes.
So this week we are covering the 4th episode of The Bad Batch Season 2. And
before we get to that, I think it behooves us to talk just a couple minutes about the Season 3 trailer for Mandalorian, which dropped. Just quick initial thoughts. I think we got a little bit more of what this season is going to be. I mean, we already kind of knew we're going to be going back to Mandalore. And we kind of got that, but we're going back to a lot of the old
Mandalorians plural, way more Mandalorians plural than we have in the past. And I'm really excited. Like, I saw this and I'm just like, woohoo!
Yes. And I'm loving all the different Mandalorian, like the colors of the armor and how the armor, all the armor looks different. It's not just one, type of armor. They're all these different colors and
the way that we're seeing this is like, I mean, I've always attributed the Mandalorians to being very much like the samurai of ancient Japan. And what's interesting is if you look at the group that Mando has been a part of for the last couple of seasons, where the group that he's being kind of excommunicated or exiled from, they're kind of like this really hyper religious group. And because they're living underground, because they're kind of a disheveled group, most of their armor doesn't look that bright and fancy. Like, by the end of the first season, Mando's armor is probably the fanciest looking armor from that group of Mandalorians. Yes. But when we get into season 2 and we start seeing you're gonna kill me. What's her name?
Bo-Katan.
Bo-Katan. Thank you. When we see Bo-Katan, her armor is, I mean, it's always been unique. It's been very pristine and kept up because that honor code is part of that. But as we've been introduced to more Mandalorians, we're seeing the armor getting cleaned up. We're seeing more color brought back to it. I mean, you look at Boba Fett. Boba Fett, I mean, for the longest time, his armor was just beat to heck because, he was going from job to job to job. And especially during the time of the Empire, that was harder to do. Now we're kind of quasi post-Empire, and he finally had the opportunity to clean up the armor and make it look nice. And I will say, from a visual aesthetic, that was one of the things that Book of Boba Fett did well. That they really beefed up the look of the armor, and I like that. But with this new season, I'm excited. It's going to be fun.
Me too. I'm looking forward to getting more into the Mandalorian lore, and maybe even bringing some little bit of Clone Wars lore too.
Yes.
Bringing that in, and when he brought out that he holds up that old Mandalorian helmet, and seeing the just seeing where the season goes, seeing who's going to be the big bad guy for this season.
I think we're going to get a little bit more of Moff Gideon as a bad guy. I for sure, and I feel like with Ahsoka landing this year, I think we're going to get some segues into what's going to happen with her, because she's supposed to be looking for Ezra Bridger, and she's dealing with Grand Admiral Thrawn. Or at least that's what I've been told.
Yeah. Now, before we get into our main topic, I just wanted to ask you how do you think they're going to work with Bo-Katan? Because it looks, the way they're setting up, it looks like she may not be a villain, but she's definitely going to be someone that's going to be an adversary, at least at the beginning. I think they could set up where she starts out as an adversary, but then ends up being more of a help to Din. Because they're both going for the same thing. at least that's what we're kind of thinking, is it seems like Din has the Darksaber. At least that's what we're assuming. Din has the Darksaber. We know from Book of Boba Fett. So it looks like all of these Mandalorians are kind of flocking to him. Like, they see he has the Darksaber, so they're coming to him, and he's kind of the reluctant leader. Whereas Bo is the one who... She was the leader of Mandalore. She lost that, and now she wants it back.
Yeah, I think we're gonna get something in there, and I think I think she is going to be adversarial because she wants it back for sure. Yeah. But it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out.
Yeah. Well, this episode had really nothing to do. The episode of Bad Batch had nothing to do with the Mandalorian.
No, it didn't. Other than just being really cool.
It was very cool. I saw one person refer to it as the first filler episode.
It did feel like a filler episode.
Yeah. But at the same time, I think it did, and we'll get into that later, it did set up potentially things for the future. Like, there's a few things that set up for, and we'll get into that, but for the way it was set up for a potential turn by, I can't even think of her name, the person who gives... Sid. Sid. A potential turn on the Bad Batch by Sid. They kind of set up something to potentially happen in the future with some things that happened in this episode. At least I think it's set up for that possibility, at least, or at least something where the Bad Batch will now be looking over their shoulders and, wondering, okay, can we trust her? Is she going to turn on us?
I think you're absolutely right, because the end of the episode just gave us this nice setting, because if you look at the way she handles things, every time they ask for payment on something, she's like, well, you already got part of it. She's always pawning them off on something else, on whatever's coming next. And from an audience perspective, it gets, you get really annoyed with characters like that, because you can tell deep down they're not really all that trustworthy as much as they try to say they are. But then you look at how things play out with this gangster that she's dealing with, and even though he's not even close to being Jabba level dangerous, he's still dangerous in his own right. And he shows some respect towards the end to Batch, to Tech and Heavy and Omega.
You mean Wrecker?
For how they handle things, but it was, we're getting the sense that maybe there's something there that they're going to have to overcome.
Yeah, and I think also, and we're kind of jumping around here, I know, but the way she kind of did, when they came and rescued her, and she kind of did that, you guys came back for me, you guys did this for me, that, kind of, that could make that potential betrayal even more heart-wrenching.
Yes.
If that comes, that's going to be for all of them, for her and for the Batch. If and when that does come, that's going to make that, more of a knife twisting in the back of it.
Yes. Agreed.
And and not to, look ahead, but that could be a potential way for Crosshair to rejoin the fold. Is he helps, she betrays them, and he does something to help them.
I could see that. What's going to be interesting is how the rest of the season plays out. I mean, I agree that this is absolutely a filler episode, but one of the things I've liked about this is that for most of season 1, the episodes showed the batch pretty much together all the time.
Mm-hmm.
There was never really a moment where they were out, and if they were separated for less than an episode.
Right.
In this case, we've had a couple of episodes in a row now where you have characters separated from the rest of the group for at least an episode.
Yeah.
And where it's just them, like, we got to learn a little bit more about, between the last couple of episodes, we've gotten to learn a little bit more about Tech and what he's capable of. He's not just a brainiac. He actually enjoys racing. He had fun with that.
Yes.
And this is the first time that we've seen him have fun.
Yeah.
You
said Crosshair. We got to see a whole episode with Crosshair.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, while we have seen episodes with Crosshair in them, it's usually him hunting the rest of his brothers. Again, with Heavy, we actually get to see a side of him that's a little bit different. Like, for a guy as big and strong as he is, he's actually got some brains behind him that people tend to overlook. Because
I need to correct. You said this a couple of times. It's Wrecker.
Oh, you're right.
You keep saying Heavy is something completely different.
Yeah, Heavy was one of the clones from Clone Wars. You're absolutely right. Oh man, I feel like
it's an interesting plug for my other show, Star Wars Through the Eyes of a Child. One of the last episodes we watched was Clone Cadets, which introduced Echo and Heavy and Fives and Cut Up as Domino Squad.
Nice.
So yeah, it was kind of so it's kind of ironic you just kind of mentioned that, but I think this was also a good episode after having such a heavy episode in see what I did there. With the last episodes being so just a literal term, a heavy episode, kind of very dark and brooding episode. It was nice to have a very light, uplifting, fun, in a lot of ways low stakes episode. There wasn't a lot on the line. There wasn't, other than they might lose Sid, but it wasn't. Loss,
though? I mean, sure, she's their cash cow, but is that really a loss?
Yeah. But it was so funny, and MVP is that droid. I cannot remember his name.
Teo.
What?
Teo.
Oh my goodness, he had the single best death scene I think I've seen in Star Wars in a while.
We're just
and then that last line, I regret nothing.
Well, what's funny is who did that voice, right?
Yes, Schwartzman.
Ben Schwartzman. Who does the voice of Sonic the Hedgehog
and BB-8.
That's right. He does do the voice of BB-8. I forgot that he's part of that. That makes more sense.
He did BB-8.
Yeah, and
yes. Just the whole. I love that scene where he's putting him back together, where Tech is putting him back together, and the line of less chatter, more spanner.
Yes. I thought it was what I really liked about his character is, like, I recognized the voice right off the bat, and I'm like, really cool. I like that. The fact that they're bringing him in, because he's got that personality. Like, if you've ever seen the show Space Force on Netflix, he's in that. He plays the kind of the PR guy for the Space Force agency, and like, he just constantly runs his mouth, and it's no wonder that they pulled him in for playing Sonic as well.
Yeah.
But going back to other Disney material, in the reboot of DuckTales, he plays Dewey Duck, and he's hilarious in that role because he showboats the character. And so this is the kind of character that's perfect for him. Although I feel it's a bit typecast, but I liked him as this one-off character. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you have you have Tech and this droid, and you'd think the droid would be the one that is very technical minded, and you have to do things by, like what C-3PO is, that the whole analytical, but he's like, nope, just go with your gut.
Yep.
Just go on instinct.
Yes, there is, and I like that. There's a good sense of humor there that you don't otherwise see from a droid. I mean, usually the droid's response is like, dude, really? You're a human and you think you could do my job better. But then you've got this droid who very much thinks that he's actually better at doing this job than a human could. And it's like, oh, interesting. I'd like to see how well he fares in a pod race against, someone with the Force.
Yeah. And I think it was interesting that almost all of the racers were droids. In fact, they all were. I think they all were, with maybe a couple of exceptions.
With the exception of the Gangsters Racer, yeah.
Yeah. Because you had the protocol droid, you had the one full protocol droid, you had the protocol droid with the battle droid head, which is a callback to Attack of the Clones.
Yep.
I saw that. I'm like, oh
man, that was too perfect.
Yeah, and I love the introduction of. That was the one thing I also like that they did, that like going through, and I knew you kind of had a feeling. That someone was going to have, and I kept asking myself, please don't be Omega, please don't be Omega, and I'm so glad they didn't go that route. I'm so glad they didn't go with that route, because that would have been too much like Anakin.
Yes,
and would have been too like, oh, look how special Omega is, I think they had enough of her in this episode that she was still a part of the episode, and she's the one who set everything up, which I was fine with. That's something that a kid would do. A kid would act before without thinking. So I had no problem with that, of her, running her mouth saying like, hey, we'll do it. And, because that's something a kid would do. That's something a kid would, without thinking, and would say like, yeah, my dad can beat up your dad. And they're going like, oh, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things I thought was great is like, yeah, I felt that expectation of Omega, because she's already shown to have some level of kind of this preternatural ability to, do things that other people can't. And like there's hints that maybe she's more sensitive, and I'm glad that they flipped that script and they put Tech in the driver's seat, literally.
Yes.
Because it just makes it feel so much more authentic, since he's the guy who makes the vehicle.
Yeah, and it makes sense. Who's the one who flies their ship? Tech is the pilot. So it makes sense that he would be the one that would be in the cockpit, which, I'm sorry, that introduction, that was hilarious too. They're doing all the, and Tech.
Yeah.
Tech. Who's this guy? What, Tech?
Yeah, it's like he even forgets that he exists from time to time. He's usually so quiet. He's just doing his own thing, and he only pipes up when there's like something that needs correcting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The scene where they had the blasters, and the blaster kills the one guy in the stands. That almost had me snorting. If I would have been drinking something, I probably would have done a spit take. That made me snort. I got to admit, I was like, yeah, that was good. That was good.
I'm right there with you. That was funny.
But yeah, it was just overall just a fun episode.
Yes.
Is there anything that you didn't like about it? Or that was like, oh, I wish they would have done something different.
I would have liked to have seen I don't know. It felt like things were a little too cut and dry, a little too friendly towards the end of the episode, where it's like usually gangsters like that would have some level of they'd come off a little bit more threatening. The character that we had in this episode was less threatening, and it was more just giving a warning. Just very he was a cutthroat businessman. He was willing to cheat, but willing to hold people hostage as collateral. But it's like he didn't seem like the kind of gangster who'd actually kill somebody.
Yeah.
Or torture. He's not a Dryden Voss.
No. And you also got a sense that Sid and this gangster had a history together.
Yes.
Like they knew each other, and they were
probably,
if not business partners, they'd at least had some sort of run in with each other and knew each other well.
Yes.
Yeah. Which, it's going to be interesting to see the next episode if we get the batch back together. I'm kind of assuming we will.
I think we will.
Yeah,
it's inevitable.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, you think again, Tech was the MVP of this episode?
Absolutely. And I think the thing I like the most is that, like I said, we're getting more episodes with the individual characters. We get to see their personalities. We get to see their quirks coming out. And I like that. It makes them feel more fleshed out than just going off of what we know of them from superficial things. Like, I mean, the only thing we knew about Tech was, he's the tech guy. Great.
Yeah.
Did not care. He wasn't as engaging as Hunter, who seems to be, who's that brooding, mysterious, I mean, Hunter is essentially Rambo, just thrown together.
Basically,
And I mean, each of these characters feels like the archetype of like a 1980s action movie. You've got the brooding leader, you've got the villain strong guy, you've got the damaged veteran, you've got Tech, who's the tech guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's no, Howlin' Mad Murdoch or anything, but he's still engaging, but not as engaging as some of the other characters. And then you've got Crosshair, who is a complete sociopath. And then you've got this kid. And to get to know their personalities, their skill sets just a little bit better makes them feel more tangible for the audience. And I like that.
Yeah. Because it seemed like last season, the only person that you really got any type of connection with the audience was, besides Hunter and Omega, was Wrecker.
Yeah.
And even that, you got like a little bit, you got them and Omega, him and Omega's thing of getting the berries, the snacks afterward, that became kind of their thing.
Yep.
But to see all of their connections, all of their connection with Omega, and how they've become this family, and how Omega relates to each one. Where I think it's safe to say that Hunter is kind of like the father figure for her. He's the dad. He's the one that she kind of looks to for that type of protection. And so it's going to be interesting to see how she that relationship grows with all of them. And even with Crosshair, because at the end of last season, she said, he's like, "You're my brother too. Just as much as they are my brothers, you are too. And I'll." So that's going to be really interesting, I think, to see too going forward.
I think so as well. I'm curious to see how everybody's relationship with Crosshair develops, because he's the outsider now. Like, he's always been an outsider, but only because of his position within the group. Now he's truly on the outside, and it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's definitely going to be very, very interesting. I'm looking forward to more episodes of The Bad Batch in season.
Yes.
Do you think? I mean, do you think they have enough for a season 3? Or
I don't know yet. It really depends on where season 2 goes.
yeah,
I mean, the writing is tight, it's concise, and I think they have the potential to do that. I mean, despite the fact that it's a Clone Wars spinoff, essentially, I think they have I have no doubt that Disney's going to want to franchise this out as much as they possibly can because that's what they do. I mean, come on, there's no need to franchise Airbuds, and yet they did it anyway. But that being said, we have the potential for doing something really, really fun with this series as it bridges between Clone Wars and Rebels.
Yes.
This is really the true bridge between those two shows, and adds quite a bit of substantial information to the timeline. And I'm really appreciating it.
Yeah. And I think, I don't know if I've asked this before, but now, other than the pilot episode, do you think we will, or do you want to see any Jedi? Or do you want to kind of keep that separate? Where
I would prefer, honestly, to keep it separate. I mean, that would just that would just be my preference for it. But I mean, at some point, we're probably going to get something along those lines.
Yeah. Now, I wouldn't mind, a bit, although. No, I don't know how they would work that, though, with Kanan coming back in, because of the reaction he has when he meets Captain Rex in Rebels. If he suddenly meets the Bad Batch, that would kind of negate that whole reaction.
That's just it. They don't even have to have the characters meet.
Yeah.
And that's the point, is that you can have these characters and their story kind of be the glue that holds Clone Wars and Rebels together. However, if they do have an episode where things cross over, I mean, we already had that in the very first episode of Bad Batch, because the Bad Batch are the ones who actually rescue Kanan Jarrus from being killed by his clone troopers.
Yeah.
Which is what, hits the domino effect for everything that's happening in last season and this season. So the fact that he's already encountered them is really not that big of an issue. He may not, I mean, he may, they don't even have to introduce him at all. Maybe they introduce the Ghost Crew before he becomes a part of it.
Well, I mean, we've already been introduced. We've already seen Hera, a young Hera.
Right.
We've seen a young Kanan. We've seen the young Caleb Doom.
Yeah.
So we've already been introduced to 2 of the Ghost Crew. Well, 3. I mean, little murder droid.
Yes, Chopper.
Little murder. So yes. Oh, good old Chopper. But I mean, introduced to a couple, a few of the other crew. I mean, it's not beyond possibility.
Yeah, that's true. And it would be interesting to see how this plays out.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's going to be, and we will be right here to take you through it. As we wrap things up, final grade of this episode.
I would say, you know what? I'm gonna round it up to a good 8.5 out of 10, and just for the sheer fact that it had Ernie Hudson in it. I love Ernie Hudson. He is good at playing. He's good at playing hero characters. He's good at playing even villainous characters.
Yeah.
And his voice work is a lot of fun.
Yes. I will give it 2 streams crossing out. I'll give it 4.5 streams crossing out of 5 if you get the Ernie Hudson.
I do. Love it. Love it.
Well, it was a good episode.
Yes, it was.
Oh, yes.
Oh.
What did you do, Ray? What did you do?
Oh, man. Oh.
Anyway, well, before we get off on a tangent, Garrett, why don't you tell the people out there where they can find you at?
Well, you guys can find me, of course, on Instagram and Twitter at GKJ_publishing. That's where I show all things about what I'm working on. I've got book 5 coming out in my Archives of a Synchranian fantasy series. It comes out on Friday, February 3rd. That's just in a couple of weeks. I'm super stoked about it because I've been working on this book for 4 years or so. The majority of that was spent in revisions, rewrites, and all those fun things. So that's where you can find me and interact with me. You can also find me on YouTube at GKJ Publishing, where I do a show called The Right Way, where we do top 10 video recommendations, author interviews. We have creative writing tips where we're working through the world building and looking at through the lens of Avatar: The Last Airbender. Last season, we looked at the hero's journey through the lens of Star Wars. So got to bridge that back to Star Wars. And then this actual Saturday, I'm going to be doing a live stream on Instagram. So if you follow me, you get to take a peek into what's going on with what I'm working on, things I'm trying to put together.
Nice. As for us right here, if you want to get a hold of us, the best way to do that is through our email. That is warofthestars1@gmail.com. You can also find us.
I'll just let you do.
On Twitter. Yeah, on Twitter, our Twitter handle is the same. It is @warofthestars1. You can also find us on Facebook. Just search War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast. Join the group there. We are a proud member of the Red 5 Network, red5network.com. For more information, if you want to check us out, you're going anywhere. We are wherever Pine Podcast are.
Oh my gosh, dyslexia is getting the better of us.
Wow. Fine are heard. Spotify, we're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcast. We are on, just go to wherever you get your podcast. Again, type in War of the Stars. You should find us there. If you want to support the show, patreon.com/War of the Stars and spreadshirt.com/shop/War of the Stars. Also, check out my other show, Star Wars Through the Eyes of a Child, where myself and my daughter Lily, my 7-year-old daughter Lily, are going through the entire Clone Wars series in canonical order. It's been it's been a blast. We are on episode let's see, we did 2 episodes the first week, but then we did the movie, and then we've done 2 more episodes. So we're 5 episodes in. And it's just been a blast. It's been so much fun.
You guys have been knocking it out of the ballpark.
We have been. We're doing 2 episodes a week, is what we're doing. So we are uploading our latest episode just came out Monday. Check it out. We'll have another episode up Thursday. It's ready to go. It's already been recorded. And it's just been so much fun going through this journey with my daughter. And seeing her excitement of watching the Clone Wars and seeing all these characters and falling in love with it just like I did, with Star Wars just like I did when I was that age. So it's really, really fun. With that being said, remember, this is not just my Star Wars. This is not just your Star Wars. This is our Star Wars. Until next time, may the Force be with you.
This is the way.